Is there a spiritual way to do it? Is there a spiritual way, regardless of the the environmental impacts, the health impacts? Is there an ethical way at the core of who we are as a humane being to be able to kill and eat animals? And so we explore not only is there any spiritual way, but then we look at the spiritual masters, the prophets that go all the way back. And one of them, if not the biggest, most influential, whether we believe in Christianity or follower or not, would Jesus eat animals? And more specifically, if he would, how would he kill an animal? Literally. And so when you get to that literal question, it's a fun, challenging question because some people debate whether he did or not.
Right.
And we go around the world. But when you ask that question, or how would Buddha kill an animal, the conversation gets very interesting because it's hard to answer.
Peace and riches blessings. I am Michael B. Beckwith, the host of Take Back Your Mind. Peace and riches blessings, everyone, and welcome to Take Back Your Mind. I'm your host, Michael B. Beckwith, the founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center. And I have a really wonderful gig. I get to, every week, have a conversation with somebody who's making a difference on the planet according to the prism of their uniqueness, how they're bringing their creativity, how they're bringing their unique expression of their spiritual powers to the planet. And today, with me in the studio, Kip Andersen, award-winning filmmaker whose films include Netflix blockbusters, Christspiracy, What the Health, which is co-executive produced by Joaquin Phoenix, and Cultspiracy, it's co-executive produced with Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a certified, what is this, Jivamukti? Jivamukti, there it is, Jivamukti and Kundalini yoga teacher, as well as the founder of Om Films and Media, a nonprofit organization that promotes awareness and equality for all life. Now, his most recent film is titled Christspiracy, The Spirituality Secret, which they boldly bought back from Netflix to release on their own. And we're going to talk about that too, because that is a bold move. So, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you again. The last time was at the Agape Old Building, in which I was being, you were interviewing me.
Yeah, one of our favorite interviews is an hour and a half of pure, just incredible wisdom, and is so great. Such a great interview.
And they'll be able to see that, right?
It's in the film, and we have the extended interview, the entire interview, when you pay it forward, which we'll talk about, that you can unlock that perk, which is one of the best perks of seeing your whole interview and all the other interviews that are amazing in the film as well.
Fantastic. It's good to see you again. So in Christspiracy, we're talking about Jesus to a degree and the Christ energies, and also talking about the sanctity of animals. And so I guess the provocative question is, I think you asked me this same question about how would Jesus kill an animal, based on what we know about him at this particular period of time. What do you?
Yeah, well, the main core question of the film is there a spiritual way to kill an animal? Whereas my previous films, Christspiracy, is there an environmental way to raise 9 billion animals and eat them and raise 90 billion? Is there an environmental way to do it? Is there a healthy way to do it? And what the health? And then Christspiracy is there a way to eat fish? This one explores, is there a spiritual way to do it? Is there a spiritual way, regardless of the environmental impacts, the health impacts? Is there an ethical way at the core of who we are as a humane being to be able to kill and eat animals? And so we explore not only is there any spiritual way, but then we look at the spiritual masters, the prophets that go all the way back. And one of them, if not the biggest, most influential, whether we believe in Christianity or follower or not, would Jesus eat animals? And more specifically, if he would, how would he kill an animal? Literally. And so when you get to that literal question, it's it's a fun, challenging question because some people debate whether he did or not.
Right.
And we go around the world. But when you ask that question, or how would Buddha kill an animal, the conversation gets very interesting because it's hard to answer. And when we asked you the question, was there a spiritual way? Your first reaction was you just laughed. And then you're like it's such a bizarre question, But when it comes down to it, it's a very profound one. It's a very important one because people forget that, right now they're getting killed and animals are getting killed in slaughterhouses. But particularly back in the day, Jesus was the leader of his group.
Right.
It was always a sacrificial process, whether he did or not. He would be the one who would have killed an animal. And would he do it? If he did, how? And
So the question is still up in the air, so to speak.
It's up in the air, but you
have a lot of different individuals that you talked to. They gave their vent on it.
And it was once it becomes that question, it falls apart pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go in the film, we go into historical documentation that some of it have been covered up. Whereas my previous films, they're more modern day cover-ups of the environmental organizations, the nonprofit health organizations. A lot of the cover-ups that happened in this film happened almost 2,000 years ago, where they very immediately, we'll talk about in a little bit, this movement that Jesus was part of, the Nazarene movement.
Mm-hmm. He was also in Essene.
And Essene, the Ebionites, the Nazarenes, this movement, what they were, their whole spectrum of what they're about, not only about the core of what they're about, thou shalt not kill, which is a massive part of who they were and what butted heads against the Jewish religion at the time and what was happening there. It was the focal point of this movement. So it's incredibly important to explore and look at. And there's a lot of historical documentation that we look into that explores this topic. That some of the scholars that we interview, when we present this to them, they're completely shocked, and they don't even. One of them is from Oxford, and when she finds some of these translations out, and it's on camera, she is shocked, and she's never even thought about this before, and it's just blown away by what we reveal in the film.
Mm-hmm. So she wasn't even aware of the translation.
Wasn't even aware, and
the impact.
And this one particular is one of the climax of the film. She's Oxford professor of Hebrew translation of the New Testament, and she's married to the Oxford professor of the Old Testament. So this is her entire life of translating these. And this one particular part that really reveals a lot of what the film explores, particularly with Jesus. She never went this deep that we went deep into, and she had to grab like 5 books to get to linking these together. And once she did, the look on her face is just blown away. She's just like, she didn't know what to say. It was that profound.
What was her revelation? What did she learn that she didn't know
Well,
before?
I'm definitely, if I'd said that, I'm giving a lot of it away. But what happened was, a lot of people don't realize, 4 days before Jesus, another great question asking people, why did Jesus get killed? It's like, well, when you really think he's a heretic, he's this, that. There's a specific event that happened 4 days before he got crucified, which is called cleansing the temple. A specific act that happened, and he got killed for this act. And it's he went into the temple, stormed the temple, freed all the animals. At the time, the Temple of Jerusalem was the world's not only largest, the first ever industrial slaughterhouse. And he freed the animals, and he shouts out something that says, you have turned my father's house into a house of prayers, and it's been translated into a den of thieves. Right. The word thief.
I know that. The
word thief is a mistranslation, because if it's thieves, then the people who say, "Oh, he was against the money changers. It's about the money." It's not about the money, and so I'm kind of giving away here.
That's okay, but translate thieves based on that particular.
Well, I'm giving it away, but.
You're still gonna listen,
you're still
guys,
gonna watch it, but
you're gonna come watch the
even
film.
If you know it, it's fun to see the reaction. Basically, you've turned my father's house into a den of murderers, and that completely changes the entire narrative of what this act was doing. Because when he shut down the temple, this was the center place of religion, the center place of politics, the center place of market. It was like shutting down the Capitol building, the Wall Street, the Vatican, like all in one swoop. That's how powerful this was. And his intention of why he did that he knew he was going to get killed for. Before, Jesus has come on this earth to absolve human sins. Before it was Jesus, it was animals. Millions of animals were getting slaughtered to absolve human sins.
Right. Sacrifice.
And he came in and stopped this. No more animals. This is my blood. This is my flesh. And so he put an end to animal sacrifice. So that was the intention. And very specifically, which we show in the film, this was his intention, and it was to freeing the animals and to stop this slaughterhouse, and do not turn my Father's house into a house of prayer into den of murderers. Right. So that's part of it.
Right, but that's not going to prevent you from going to see the rest of the film.
Yeah. Or
if you haven't seen any of the other films, they're very powerful as well. Now, this particular film, it was 7 years in the making. Right?
In a way, it was actually 18, even though it was 7 18. This part out. Yeah. When I made.
So tell us about the inspiration behind it as well.
So I've been vegan 18 years, and it was an instantaneous thing when I saw a video. I was vegetarian at the time, and it was a video where it's called Meet Your Meat. It was the first time I ever knew, it was a long time ago, that I saw how dairy was made. I didn't realize a dairy cow was taken away from her mother at birth. And just right then, and then I saw how eggs were. Immediately, I went vegan, and then within a few weeks, I went to Loving Hut. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those. It's a vegan restaurant. They have books that show the environmental impacts of eating animals.
Right.
So all within about a couple weeks, I find out, the ethical impacts for myself, and then the environmental impacts. So all this happened very quickly. And so I was working on the film Christspiracy. And Christspiracy initially was going to be a film on the environmental impacts, the ethical impacts, and the health impacts of eating animals. And when we did the first edit, Keegan, my co-director at the time, Keegan Kuhn, we had the film, all 3 of those were in there. We interviewed the Dalai Lama's right-hand man, like a better word, and interviewed what's the compassionate way to kill an animal. And it was a phenomenal, interesting interview. We've interviewed yogis. What is the yoga way? What is the himsa way to kill an animal or to not? But when we showed it in test screenings, it felt like it was too much. Like you're trying to cram too much into it. So at that time, it was a very difficult decision how to take that part. That was a favorite part of the movie. We realized we had to make 3 movies. So the first one fully focused on the environment, the next one on health, and then this one, which is most dear to me, focused on the ethical impact, which is definitely by far most interesting to me and most closest to my heart. So that was 16 years ago. And then so I had to make those other 2 films. And then this film was by far the most challenging for many reasons. And that's been 7 years to make this film with my co-director, Cameron Waters.
Right. So you have the ethical aspect, you have the environmental aspect, and this latest one is dealing with the spiritual aspect to a degree?
The spiritual aspect in a degree. And in all the other films, we touch upon that. And Christspiracy, at the end of the film, debate back and forth, regenerative farming. I say, okay, well, if it is okay, maybe backyard farming is okay. Then I go and see how to kill a duck. I went to a duck farmer. He ironically loves ducks. He has ducks all around his house and loves ducks. And we see very close up him killing a duck. And then, it was very, very powerful for me, because then I realized, even regardless of the environmental, I can't do this. So we touched on the ethical. And then in What the Health, a lot of that film touched on the spiritual health of eating animals. Okay, maybe it's physically okay to eat an animal or 2, our body. But when you're talking about physical, mind, body, and spirit, especially when you see the domino effect of what happens to not only the animal being killed, who kills that animal? The slaughterhouse worker. And what happens to that slaughterhouse worker? And the domino effect, what happens to his family? Then what happens to the environment? And it goes on and on and on. And so the foundation of this, of just raising, killing animals, I feel, which we explore in this film more than the others, is like I said, the foundation, the root of all these other things that happen in life.
So you're basically getting into what happens to the soul of humanity. based on the agriculture today, based on the way we kill our animals?
Yeah.
Do you feel that something is happening to the human soul based on what they're doing and how they're doing it?
Absolutely. And some of the questions you're asking me, I loved asking you because you answer it in beautiful ways. But I do feel it. I feel it's, I'm as you mentioned, I'm a certified yogi, and there's 8 limbs of yoga, and the first limb of the 8 limbs is the yamas. The yamas is how you relate to others, and so all 5 yamas you cannot correspond to killing or eating animals. They all are against it, like stealing, truthfulness, non-harming, all of those. So it's the foundation of yoga. And then when you look at the different religions, they all have this foundation of the first one usually being compassion or dominion, which is stewardship, it's serving. And if you're not following this first rule, this is, no matter what religion you're following, it's like planting a seed that the seed, no matter where you go from, it's just starting out in the wrong space. So it's not, a lot of people say, oh, being vegan or not eating animals, eventually I'll get to that, or eventually society will get to that, when realizing, no, this is the first step. Like if we're taking the board game, this is step 1. Then we can work on these other things. And so, I have such a long ways to go becoming a great person or whatever. This is, I just feel, the first step of becoming a good person and then going. And so I feel it really, lack of a better word, destroys the human soul and the human being. I love the part in the film where we look into the word human being and we interview someone. I can't remember his name right now, but it's not as if someone anointed us that you are now human beings. We chose that name over 2-legged wise ones, the smartest ones. We chose the word humane of all of them. And that's what separates us. And if we are truly humane, we have to actualize that and live up to that. And there's no humane way to take someone's life. So again, it comes down to that foundation of our soul and our journey, that when we repair that, when we heal that, and we honor our brothers and sisters who are animals, because a human being is an animal. People forget that.
Well, they're a being. They have consciousness.
They have consciousness.
They have reflective awareness.
Yeah. And when you not follow that rule, then the domino effect, just everything which goes into my other films, you see what happens. And then also for yourself.
I remember for me, many years ago, when I became a vegetarian, it was, I'd had a spiritual awakening. So my energy was very sensitive. Still is, but I'm more acclimated to it at this point. And I remember eating a piece of chicken. And as soon as I bit the chicken, I could feel the angst of the chicken. I could literally feel its pain. I didn't know what it was. And I said, what's going on with me? And I tried to eat it again, and I could just feel the experience that it had when it was caged up and the way it was treated. And I said, I'm a vegetarian. It was just like that. It didn't take a long time. It's just like, I don't eat meat anymore, like that. Yeah. And my mother was very, very worried about me. And she was saying, what are you going to eat, baby? I said, I'm going to eat vegetables. And she said, but you don't eat that many vegetables. I said, well, I will now. And she used to try to sneak chicken onto my plate after family dinners, and I say, Mom, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. It was later on in life that I discovered the environmental impact. First, it was the sensitivity to animals. Secondly, for me, it was the environmental impact of all of the pollution in the air and what we do to the groundwater and what we do to the soil and what we do to the animals. And then thirdly, it was the health issue. That came last, when I realized you don't need to eat protein to get protein, that's just a big myth. So those were my particular evolutionary stages that allowed me to not eat the meat. I still remember that bite in the angst of the chicken. And I thought something was wrong with me because I was just like feeling all this pain and fear and everything. And then I realized what it was.
When you really tune in and you can feel it. That's like when people say, is it hard? I say it'd be so hard for me to eat an animal. Like that's just, that's the hardest thing I can even think of. It's very easy to not.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays.
I don't proselytize. I don't judge or proselytize. I just make my own choice.
Yeah.
And then offer plant-based as an alternative. You come to my house,
Yeah, and I've come a long ways too. I've been 18 years, and I'd say I'm an animal rights activist. I used to be the angry, like
Yeah.
want to make sure, but then I've come a long way in realizing, lead by. That's what making movies. Lead. In all of our films, we don't tell anyone to do anything. It's just exploring the truth, exploring questions, and when you watch the film, just ask more questions. That's all we do, and everyone's on their path. So
absolutely,
that's very important.
And you traveled all these different religious sites in pursuit of this creation of this film, and obviously to learn. So what was the most surprising thing that you discovered when you traveled all around the world? What any shock?
Well, there's a lot of exciting, shocking parts. We were on a car chase in India.
Wait a minute, you were in a car chase?
We were in a car chase. We were both. One time we were chasing. At the time we went to India, we exposed the dairy industry. The biggest cover up in India is that they kill all of their dairy cows, and
they kill the dairy cows,
all of them. And no one, even when I did my Kundalini yoga teacher training, and I knew at the time, and I would purposely ask people in India, and no one knows this. And so
that's why you call it the cover up.
What's that? Yeah, that's what we call a cover up. And so we at the time, slaughter was illegal for a few months, like fully illegal. So but they have to kill their dairy cows somewhere. So they would put 100 cows, squeeze them into these big trucks, and take them across the border. And
they couldn't do it in India.
They couldn't do it in India, and if they did do it in India, they'd have to do it secretly. They'd have to find Muslims to do it because Hindus can't, even though the Hindus are the ones eating the dairy. It's just this bizarre thing. And so we wanted to catch a drone footage of one of these trucks because it's illegal what they're doing. And we found a truck, and it's in the film. It's a very exciting part, and we capture a picture of it. We end up showing it to the police to try to do something, and they're like, whatever.
It's just a part of our culture.
Yeah, it's part of our culture. But anyway, and then we also went to the world's largest public animal sacrifice that happens every 5 years. It's in Nepal.
Yeah.
Gadamai. And they kill tens of thousands of animals. And we filmed that, and that was very daring and very shocking. And seeing
this is just like from the old school sacrificing for your own good luck or
yeah. Well, the reason why we went there is because we wanted to see the closest what it was 2,000 years ago. And so they pray for the animal. They pray for the animal and genuinely do it, and they do it with their own hands rather than having someone else do it. So it was the closest we could get, we felt, to seeing what it was really like and to see if this is a better way of doing it. Praying to the animal before they kill it. Is that better? Well, ask the animal. I don't think so. But that was very shocking. But I guess to answer your question, the most beautiful thing is that going all these different religions, because even though it's called Christspiracy, we explore Buddhism, Hinduism, we go into Muslim, Islamic faith, and we find out that the root of all these religions are the same. And that's kind of giving the end away too. At the core root of all of these things is compassion for all beings. And all of them have a connection to all animals, and it's not just human beings. And so that was beautiful, stripping away the veil and the things that get covered up, the mistranslations of all religions. And that's a beautiful conclusion that we found very powerfully in the film.
So as you're going through this particular trek, is there any way that you changed? Did you have your own inner transformation about this, or did it mainly validate the perception that you already had?
It validates some, but what was beautiful about it is I did not grow up religious. My parents were Mormon, but my dad was a rebel, and he did not go. We never went to church. So growing up, I was a clean slate, which led me on my own spiritual journey, which was nice. I was very interested in it when I went to college. But even up until making this film, I thought Jesus was maybe a fictional character, maybe a collection of other prophets at the time. And I found out that this is a very real person, historically documented. The temple cleanse is very historically documented. This Nazarene movement that he was part of, very well documented. And then finding out the core of Christianity, the essence of where Christianity started is this Nazarene, the Essene, Ebionite movement, were, lack of a better word, hardcore animal activists. It was what separated them from the culture at the time. It was the one thing that separated this movement from from the culture. So all 10 commandments, they followed all 10 commandments, and thou shalt not kill was the one that the other, say the Jewish community, or lack of a better word, at the time, that was the one they had issue with, because they had the Temple of Jerusalem, which was killing millions of animals for money, that was funding the high priest, that was then paying the taxes to the Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And this group of Nazarenes, they were fiercely against this. And so not only did Jesus die 4 days before trying to shut down the temple, James, his brother, that is covered up. People don't realize Jesus had a brother named James.
James and John, the sons of Zebedee. Yeah.
And James, after Jesus got killed, James took over his movement, and it was all over the Bible. Anytime you see James, it's always added that he was a vegetarian. He only ate fruits and vegetables. And he's been wiped out of history because he took over the movement after Jesus got killed. Then he died the same way at the temple, trying to shut down the temple that was sacrificing animals. Then after he gets killed for doing the same thing Jesus, I believe it was Simeon, another someone from I think a cousin, doing the same thing, trying to shut this temple down, all stopping the murder of animals. And it's at the core foundation of Christianity. And it's been covered up, and it's there's a few people been talking about it over the last few years. It's starting to bubble up a little bit more. Mm-hmm. We feel the film is definitely a spark that's going to, over the next 10 years, it's going to be a massive movement in the Christianity of rewriting Christianity, of the truth of what really, how this started, and who Jesus and the Nazarene movement, Nazarene and Essene, what they were really about. Because when you start looking, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere. It's not like it's hidden. It's just that it's been kind of covered up, but there's Gospels of Essenes, Nazarites, historical documentation, Josephus, on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. So today, with this mega way by which humanity kills animals, I mean, it's bigger than the temple in Jerusalem. It's an industry. Jesus would be crucified again.
Oh yeah.
If you go in front of these big plants and try to shut down everything, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And imagine, yeah.
I mean, just the money behind all of that,
right.
And how our taxes pay for all the corn and the soy, so that the meat is very cheap, so that you can get a $5 meal at one of these fast food places. It's all intertwined in our society. Mm-hmm. So do you feel that you're making a difference?
Well, I'd like to, I feel like all of us, what was a quote that's from Angela Davis the other day, that you must wake up, have something like this. You must wake up knowing that you can make a difference, and you're doing things to make a difference. You have to have that belief, and then keep doing it over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And it was something and that was really powerful, because I believe we have to believe we're making a difference individually, and then mm-hmm. when you collaborate with others collectively, and you're a perfect example of this, you make a massive difference. You've made a massive difference in my life. I don't know if you remember me telling you this when we interviewed you, but way back from The Secret, you particularly was a massive inspiration, that seeing you and seeing the things and learning, the thoughts become things, and in the manifestation, combining that with spirituality mm-hmm. was a big reason that any success I've had to today. So, the making a difference is a domino effect.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
I just want to make sure you're not getting frustrated out here, spitting in the wind.
No.
In a global society.
Yeah, and I feel, what the people say, where we're at right now. I believe when you look at the whole picture, everything, there's this great thing about a Rubik's Cube. You know a Rubik's Cube?
Yeah,
and sure. You probably already know this one, but when you're putting together a Rubik's Cube and it's all done, right before it's finished is when it's the most chaotic. Mm-hmm. It's the most looks like it's not. And then the very next thing, it clicks. And I feel we're going through a time like that. Right now, so much about the internet and everything is revealed. Whereas mm-hmm. before it was hidden. In the 80s, it was happening. It was just all. So now everything is revealed. It's like, oh my God, what's happening? It's beautiful that's being revealed. Because if it's not, you can't do anything about it. And so I feel we're in this beautiful transition time where I do have I believe we're entering an incredible, beautiful golden era of us as being human beings, and you're on the path or you're not, but the path is being very clear of where these spiritual leaders, have all been talking about for thousands of years that are now being uncovered. So we see what the path is, and I believe, I feel really great about where we're at right now.
Yeah, I do too. I feel the same way, that everything can no longer be swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Because everything is just blasting all of the materialism, the greed, the avarice, the pseudo control, all of that is just blasting in people's face. Whereas before it was hidden with people had nice ties, they said all the sweet, wonderful things. Now you have people just lying and just saying all manner of things just as a matter of course in our political theater around the world. And many people are waking up to the fact that we are going through a transition, a great upheaval of what you just said, that is allowing us to see clearly what's not real. But that's always what happens before the Rubik's Cube gets right. It always happens before the next level of emergence that takes place. There's always chaos, and then there's emergence. Whether it's a caterpillar, then there's an emergence of a butterfly. There's always chaos, then there's emergence. And we're in tremendous chaos. And people are nervous and scared and upset. But this is just a precursor to the next level of unfoldment. Because as I've often taught, is that on the planet at this time in human history, there is a solution to every single issue. It already exists. Water, air, food, it already exists. There's nothing that we have to invent. But the old paradigm is just keeping it from emerging. But it can't do that forever. Yeah. So you've taken on so many things in different aspects of your movies. And movies are like the new expression of religion. It's the altar of the computer or the television, the music, the soundtrack, and then bringing information to people. So you've taken on all of your movies, you've taken on some aspect where people have a blind eye to it and not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And you're making them think. You're making them ask questions. Why am I doing this? Well, my mother and father brought me up this way. Mm-hmm. So this is so what? Yeah. My parents, they used to, not my parents necessarily, but they used to eat pork. I wouldn't eat that. You know what I mean? Just because my ancestor did, I wouldn't. Why would I put a pig in my mouth? But so people are waking up to a whole nother way of being.
Yeah. You said a great thing there too, and I believe when you're looking, spiritual, compared to institutionalized religion to say spirituality is looking from within,
right,
rather than looking for something else to hold on to that someone else, as a dogma or as that was founded upon some spiritual person looking within, usually.
Right. They all have good genesis.
Yeah.
But then the religion itself becomes the thing. But the religion is supposed to make you transcend and go into the transcendent. You're supposed to go beyond the religion. You're not supposed to be like, well, I'm a Christian forever, or I'm a Jew forever. It's silly. I'm a Mormon forever. That's silliness. Yeah. All of those things are transportation to somewhere, to a great insight into your oneness with life. And once you're there, you can love the boat you came in on, but you're not going to identify yourself with the boat. That's the myopic aspect of human beings. They identify themselves with the boat that's taking them to the transcendent, rather than realize it's just a boat. It's not the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say we have some of the most powerful parts in the film is when we show, both of them are actually girls. They're like 6-year-old girls where the parents are feeding them animals. And these are very aware children. And they're just like, you're feeding me an animal? They just can't believe it. And I was, when on the spiritual journey of like looking yourself in the mirror and saying, what would my 7-year-old, 8-year-old self would align with whatever it is, whether it's eating animals or whether you're doing. It's always a good moral compass to ask yourself your inner child that question. And with the topic that we're discussing, it's loving animals. No 7, 8-year-old child would ever kill or eat an animal, just wouldn't. And one thing I'd add that this kind of I was going to say before, but which is interesting with kind of jumping topics here, but with dominion is a big part of our film, of course. And dominion in some respect carries out through all religions, stewardship of God's creation, And so of course that means the planet and animals. And what's interesting is dominion. It's not an allowance that we have power over it. It's that it's a commandment. And we go in this in the film. Not only is it the commandment, is the very first one. It's kind of like I was talking about the first yama, the first rule of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is that we are not the master species. Our commandment is that we are the servant species. So the way we worship is by serving the creatures and the planet that we're on. And so when we're doing that, everything we are, we don't necessarily have to worry about what's going to happen with, this is what I feel, with the planet and with the chaos, like you're mentioning. As long as we have the frequency, energy, and vibration of compassion, of serving, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But I feel
that's a great step in evolution too, when people have a level of compassion, because you're actually beginning to see the other individual as an expression of yourself. The demarcation begins to dissolve. And that's a wonderful state of consciousness, that you're describing.
Yeah, it is. And it's nice because then it makes you feel not so, or for me, not so important and not so, when I release myself and I surrender myself to not only saying love for all, in yoga, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, may all beings be happy and free, may thoughts, words, action of my own contribute some way to happiness for all. I'm in a lot of yoga classes. When they say that, they're referring usually to humans, but it's still nice because you're surrendering yourself to humans. Your consciousness becomes part of all.
Right.
But when you expand it to all animals, now your consciousness of who you are is so great that it covers this entire planet and then the spirit animals. And it's such a beautiful feeling of release and oneness that, again, kind of goes back to that. It's okay. Everyone there's a lot of beings that have our back and that are with us and that I've seen. So it's been a beautiful experience for me that when, say I went vegan, didn't eat animals, I just didn't do it for justice. I had no idea the spiritual awakening and the things that would transpire from doing this.
Yeah.
And so if anything, recommending it for people just to see how that feels, it's incredible.
Well, everything is frequency. Everything is vibrating at some oscillation of some level of frequency. So the very dense level of vibration, your body's vibrating differently. You go to a higher frequency, higher order of food, higher frequency food, then you're more apt to open spiritually. And that's not to say that if you're eating meat, you can't be enlightened. But the vibration of the higher frequency foods create a greater opening for that. And back to your other comment, dominion doesn't mean domination. You were talking about having dominion, which is stewardship, rather than dominating. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people that are less mature want to dominate other people, or they want to dominate the animal kingdom, or they want to dominate another country. I call those our younger brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. They want to dominate everything. Mm-hmm. Let me go get a gun and go kill this animal. I remember reading about this guy who wanted to eat a taste of every animal on the planet before he died. And I said, that's a hell of a goal. I'm going to go eat everything. It's funny, but not funny.
Right, exactly.
It's like, I'm going to eat every animal. Wow. Yeah. You have all this money and that's what you want to do with your time? Go eat every animal?
Yeah, the disconnect. And a lot of times, because we explore hunting too, is interesting. I almost feel like when you share that story, a lot of people who go hunting, especially men, they love the animals they're hunting. Like my background is Utah, and all my cousins and relatives, they're hunters, and they love animals. They have stuffed animals in their house.
Right.
And someone shared this really nicely, but I paraphrase. Basically, sometimes we don't know how to get close to these animals other than hunting them and being in their world. Mm-hmm. But then the killing part gets them closer because we can stuff them and we can create a bond with them. It just so happens, that's why you see people with a lion and they're dead, they hug them. It's this weird psychopathic thing where, it's like where the serial killers, they love the women that say they're killed because they don't know any other way to bond with these beings. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, it all comes down to connection and disconnection. And if we can connect in a way that's compassionate, which it's happening now. So
yeah, absolutely. My daughter calls my backyard animal kingdom, because, we feed the squirrels, they come out and they'll just lay there and wait for me to come out, We have raccoons that come forward. We have these coyotes that come over the fence. Now they're little, I don't mess with them, but they don't mess with me either. And my Malinois always chases them away. But, I love all those animals. I wouldn't think about eating them, but I love the animal kingdom. Now, let me ask you this. You have you mentioned this kind of before, a kind of a pay it forward aspect of your film. How did that evolve and what does that mean?
Yeah, so initially this film was called Cowspiritual. It's the same topics, exploration of the ethical, spiritual impacts of raising, killing animals, eating their flesh. And then it evolved, and we were with Netflix. As we continued down that journey, working with, I have a deep appreciation for Netflix, love them. They produced all of our films. This one was very challenging, as you can imagine. It's talking about religion, animals, killing animals, not killing animals. So
it's a very controversial topic.
It is. And
it
was very challenging to even make it into a story. So as we were making it, we were just having trouble seeing eye to eye on how to make it. And while we were doing that, we were, say, in India, and we were doing this powerful part in India. We have two sections in India, and they're like, when's it going to come out? And we say it's on Netflix, and no one has Netflix there.
Oh.
Or the animal activists, they don't have enough money to afford it there. I've been living in Mexico for 4 years and then realizing, wow, it'd be incredible if we could share this story to everyone. So long story short, between the creative differences and wanting to expand this film so everybody can watch it, no matter whether you have a Netflix subscription or not, inspired us to buy the film back, to not be censored, to tell it exactly how we wanted to tell it because they saw it a different way. And so we made the bold decision to buy it back and to finish it how we wanted to, which is now, and to do a pay it forward method. So if you do have the funds and you're so inspired to donate all the money, 50% of the money goes to animal charities, to do that and then to pay it forward to someone else who might not be able to afford it. We created our own platform on Christspiracy.com to release the film. And so the goal is to not only inspire other filmmakers to do the same, but also to take out the middleman of these big distribution companies so that when someone also watches the film, we can still connect with them. Because my previous films, they all have a call to action, but they have to find us on Instagram or they have to email us. Right now, we know who they are. We know their
because they've watched the film.
They watch the film and we have their email and say, hey, here's a plant-based meal plan for you. Here's some follow-up interviews that we're going to give you. And so to have that connection with people who are watching the films we didn't have with when they're on Netflix, that was another inspiration to be able to connect with the viewers and the community.
So right now, if someone goes to Christspiracy, what are they paying?
They pay a donation. They can pay nothing if they don't want to.
Okay.
They can watch the film, then pay after. And it's just Christspiracy.com, and they can choose whether to pay, how much they want to pay. It's not, they don't choose who they send it to. It's just amount of, the more they pay, the more it'll get.
And then you send that to people who can't afford?
No, it's more of that. It keeps the wheel turning. Yeah,
right.
We spend marketing dollars every day. Hundreds, ideally thousands, to get.
If somebody can't afford anything, they can go on and watch it.
Yeah, they can watch it.
And it's a part of that.
It's a part of that. It cost a lot, especially buying it back from Netflix. It cost a lot of money, particularly to make this film and to buy it back, and
I can imagine.
And to finish it, and to now market it. Through the modern day marketing
This
avenues.
is the spirit of abundance you're operating, and you're in this field of abundance,
right?
And just creating a level of circulation. People can circulate, watch. They're helping somebody else watch it. It keeps everything going, so the message keeps getting out there. Yeah. And as you indicated, there's no middleman.
Yeah, cutting out the middleman, which is nice to be able to. Yeah, be connected with, create a community when people watch it. Stay connected to them, so that's nice as well.
Yeah. And that's another level of emergence that's happening in our economic system, where the so-called middleman is being cut out, whether it's the blockchain. Musicians are now going on the blockchain with their music so that they don't have to deal with the whole music record company. They can just go right to the person who wants to listen to the music and have a relationship with them. So this is like an emergence of abundance for people rather than a middleman. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to ask you a question with I asked you this before, but in compassion with animals and in compassion, how do you see that tying into abundance and that frequency, energy, and vibration, and how, say, in the mental health world that we're in, that's mind, body, spirit, how do you see that all connected?
Okay, break that question down a little bit more. I mean,
well, just how our relationship with animals and compassion, like how do you see that? How do you see that in relation to manifesting abundance?
Well, first of all, on a spiritual realm, we're surrounded by abundance. Abundance is a key quality of this presence of love, beauty, intelligence. All of the great qualities are everywhere, fully everywhere. Thus, when the Bhagavad Gita says you can take abundance from abundance, but abundance still remains. That's a spiritual quality. And so as we mature with an understanding that I am one with you, you're at one with me, I'm at one with my dog, I'm at one with the great oak tree. As we come into the consciousness of oneness, we begin to release the inhibitors and the blinders for abundance to flow through us. So every time we're able to break free from a sense of separation, we're able to participate more in abundance. So when we look at the world of appearances, we see gross materialism that leads to consumerism, that leads to the projection of abundance into things. I have 16 cars, I have 20 houses, into things, which actually creates lack in my consciousness. So if I'm falling in love with life, and I'm falling in love with the expression of life, which is all beings, I'm tapping into real abundance. So what happens then? My decisions are made from abundance rather than from lack. I'm not in this world to get a bunch of stuff. I'm in this world to share, to give, to shine, to radiate, to make a contribution, to give. What does that do? Subconsciously, I'm starting to feel that I already have everything. So my decisions are different. So when you break down separation, you start to feel the abundance. Your choices are different, your actions are different, and now you come under more grace. There are things that show up in your life that you didn't even plan, but because of your openness, they show up as your legitimate need being met. And people say, oh, that's a miracle. No, that's the flow of God. That's the flow of life. Am I answering your question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. It's flow. I call it flow motion.
Flow motion.
And then the other thing that happens is, I know for me, I live in this place of knowing. First of all, I feel joy right now. I feel a level of peace, but I also feel that everything is working out. I may not know how things are gonna work out in the challenge, because we all have challenges. But I live in the feeling that everything is working out perfectly. I was thinking about this recently, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. My car was on the hill in my driveway. For some reason, it popped out of the park, and I couldn't stop it. So it rolled down the hill and it crashed into this car that was parked across the street. Knocked it up on the curb, broke the axle. I saw it all happening, like bam. So I left a note on the man's. I don't know who the person. I didn't know who the owner was. I just left a note. This is my phone number. Give me a call. So next morning, I'm sitting. I'm outside talking to the insurance adjuster, and telling the insurance adjuster what happened. And the guy whose car belongs to was walking up the street along with a friend of his. And he stops me and says, "Do you live around here?" I said, "Yeah, I live around here." He says, "My car got smashed last night. Do you know what happened?" I said, "Yes, I do. That was my car that did it." I said, "I'm on with the insurance adjuster right now. Just hold on a second." Talk to him, talk to my insurance adjuster. Then I gave the phone to the man. And the insurance adjuster made sure that, "Don't worry, everything's going to be okay. We're going to make you whole. He has great insurance, blah, blah, blah." So then I said to him, he's really cool. This guy has no issue about the fact that his car smashed. And so I said, it was late at night when he was coming to get his car. And I said, where were you going? He says, "I was going on a road trip. However, my mother was calling me at that time and telling me that where I was supposed to be at that time was a critical accident where people got killed. But because my car was smashed, I wasn't on the road and I wasn't there at that time. So she was trying to stop him from driving, but he couldn't drive because the car had been smashed. So he said, and my dad believes the same thing. He says, man, you would have been right in the middle of that. So thank God that that parking thing came out and hit your car. So we started laughing about it. And then and I said, hey, I believe in those kind of things. And the insurance agent could hear the conversation, and she says, "I do too." So all three of us are kind of just laughing about the fact that nobody was hurt, nobody was in the car. It was just some bent metal. I'm driving my car today; it's all fixed.
Might have saved his life,
and it may have saved his life. I don't know,
yeah.
But he believes, and his mother believes, that at that precise moment he would have been in that accident on the freeway. And a few people got killed in this accident. But he wasn't there. So I just think that, there's grace notes, the things that happen that might appear to be bad at the time they're happening. But if you step back far enough, you can see, oh my God, that was grace.
Yeah.
So I think in the field of abundance, abundance is also love. It's also peace. It's also grace. It's also what I call harmonizing prosperity rather than gross materialism shows up, and it can be as simple as loving your pet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Loving your neighbor. All the tenets that are talked about in the teachings of Jesus. Loving your neighbor as yourself.
The golden rule.
Golden rule, but you have to have a level of self-love and appreciation. Yeah. So it's beautiful. So as we bring this wonderful conversation to a close, there's anything that, say you're driving home, you say, I wish I would have mentioned that. I wish I would have said that. Anything that comes up in your awareness?
Oh, one, love for everyone listening to watch not only Christspiracy, these other films that we've produced. It took a lot of work and to keep asking questions. And sometimes those asking questions is just simply looking in the mirror and being truthful to yourself, because I believe being really truthful to yourself is the pinnacle, at the same time, the root of that spiritual awakening. And it's just the beginning of, just the start of the journey. Yeah,
because I think your movie ends with you provoking them to ask questions.
Ask questions, yeah. Look within. Look within. Ask your inner child, and are you fully aligned with who you truly are in your ethical, moral compass? And when you are, see how it feels. It feels incredibly liberating, or at least for me. And so I'd say that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important because people are living with all of the angst that's happening in the world. People are primarily living in the survival instinct. They're afraid and they just want to know how to make it to the next day. And you're offering people an opportunity to stop for a moment and self-reflect.
It is. And it's also too with that, like eating, the chakras, a lot of that, the first chakra is surviving, dominating. And that's where even no matter indigenous tribes, plant medicine shamans, you don't eat animals. If you're eating animals, you're really stuck in the lower chakras. And as you stop doing that, your energy frequency vibration raises and goes to a different frequency, where these things, the matrix, if you will, they don't concern you as much, because you're operating, like you say, they're operating in that level of abundance and gratitude and compassion that the world's going on around you, and you're just like, I'm okay. We're okay, because we're operating in a different one, and I feel this is a big part of it. Is removing those blocks and letting yourself kind of raise up, and it feels great.
Yeah, it's like a slight buzz. Listen, if in fact you begin to self-reflect, meditate, affirmatively pray, study, ask yourself these questions, you begin to be conscious of what you're putting in the body temple, you're not going to become a wimp. You're going to become very strong and vital.
Amen.
Hey, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. Tell them how to get in touch with you.
So Christspiracy.com, and if you're on Instagram or Facebook, follow us, Christspiracy, and we'll be putting out announcements and other films, Cowspiracy, What the Health, and Seaspiracy. And love to hear how everyone loves it and being part of the community of compassion, the movement of compassion that is going off right now. It's massive.
This is Brother Kip Andersen. Great movies. How many? I've been in one or two of them.
You've been in one, but you'll be in another one. We'll talk about that one.
I've been in one of them.
as of so far.
Have a beautiful day. Thank you. Peace and blessings. I truly hope that you are enjoying Take Back Your Mind podcast. The Take Back Your Mind podcast is sponsored primarily by the Agape International Spiritual Center. In other words, everything that you see in terms of the staff that puts this together, the editing, the equipment, all of this is sponsored by our Agape International Spiritual Center. So if you are enjoying the podcast, I'm inviting you to support the sponsor. Support Agape. Simply go to agapelive.com and make a donation. And say in the donation that you are supporting the podcast. It allows us to keep broadcasting. It allows us to keep putting these magnificent moments together with these wonderful people that I get to interview. We keep having the possibility of updating the equipment that's necessary and providing the wonderful content that many of you are writing in and saying, I really love the podcast. Support the podcast. Support the sponsor. Agape International Spiritual Center. agapelive.com. You can also text to donate. You can text the word give to 424-321-6243 and put podcast so that we know that you're really supporting this wonderful podcast. Our secondary sponsor is Adaptozen, Adaptozen. This is my superfood greens. It's nutritionally dense because I teach spirit, mind, and body. We want our body temples to be healthy. So one of the products is my superfood greens. You can go to NutraRise.com. Those three little lines you see, you hit those three little lines and you'll see Adaptozen. There's two products, my superfood greens and a product called Elevate, which are organic mushrooms for your health. You can put both in your smoothies so that you have main ingredients for the health of your body temple. These are our sponsors. Primary sponsor, Agape International Spiritual Center. Secondary sponsor, Adaptozen. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be wise. Circulate and share. Peace and blessings. Dynamic blessings to you, and this is one of the most important parts of the Take Back Your Mind podcast, and that's spiritual practice. Individuals often ask, what are the basics and what are the advanced teachings in metaphysics, mysticism, the understanding of quantum reality. And I've said over the years that theory is the beginning and practice is the advance. Meditation is a part of our practice that we do on a regular basis. Meditation is paying undistractable attention to that which is real, that which is eternal, that which is forever. Synonymous with the word spiritual. Spiritual means that which is eternal. We are spiritual beings. So meditation provides the context for us to have spiritual insight into our spiritual nature. The ramifications of that is that those qualities, as they are embodied, begin to orchestrate real thinking called inspiration, higher order conversation, and compelling right action. Meditation is transportation to transformation. So let's practice for a few moments together. Have your feet placed on the ground, unless you're in a full lotus position. Let's have our hands on our lap facing upward as a sign of receptivity and availability. Let's have the thumb and forefinger touching as a sign of the trance going beyond the egoic perception. Just take a nice inhalation. Release the sigh of ah. Take another inhalation. Bring your shoulders to your ears. Squeeze the body. Do the opposite of relaxation. Release. Eyes closed. Let's embrace our intention. We have a high vibrational intention to wake up to our glorious nature, to wake up to our essential nature, to wake up to who and what we really are. We're not merely the body or the subtle bodies. We're not merely what we own. We're not merely titles that we may have achieved over our lifetime. We are the spiritual emanation of the presence that contains all of the sacred qualities of the infinite. We're intending to wake up to this. As you're turning within, you're putting a slight smile on your face that activates tonic chemicals of the body, slows down the aging process, amplifies the effectiveness of the immune system. And we're aware of our intention. To wake up. Let's do one other thing. As you are becoming aware of your intention, becoming aware that the body's breathing, I'm going to suggest and see if you can allow this to happen. I want you to become aware of yourself, observing the breath and embracing your intention. Observe yourself observing. Don't ask how. Now you're becoming aware that you are awareness. You're not your mental body, you're not your perceptions, you're not your physical body. You're awareness. And you're giving yourself permission to be aware of the personality construct that's been created by time that has perception, points of view, and opinions. But that's not you. You are awareness. Observing you. Your personality, observing. You're waking up. Now we do one other thing here. We give thanks that we are alive, more awake, and aware. We create a vibrational, energetic of gratitude that then becomes a field of receptivity with the mighty blessings that are always being given. But now you are more receptive. We give thanks, and we give thanks, and we give thanks. And we allow it to be. And so it is. Amen. We slowly open our eyes. Just want to thank you for participating in the pause that refreshes, rejuvenates, and restores. Thank you for having an inner desire to be more you. Peace and blessings. Your time is very valuable, so I want to thank you for lending us your ear and participating in taking back your mind. If you want to submit a question for the question of the week, please submit it to podcast@michaelbeckwith.com. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please submit a review and let us know your thoughts. Stay on top of current episodes by subscribing to the podcast so that you'll receive alerts and not miss one single episode. And feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and family. And until we meet again, take back your mind, and you will take back your life. Peace and blessings.